So as you can see in the PDF, the topic for discussion today is changing the taste buds of the being. So from what do we need to change the taste buds? Normally our conditioning gives us a certain kind of taste for life. The taste meaning what we want out of life. So one taste is the taste buds of our ego self, right? Our ego wants constant affirmation from the world, from our work, from our relationships. The ego wants to be told it's special, it's better, all that. And unless we've done a lot of work on ourselves, as the mother says, the ego is practically present in everything that you do. She differentiates between egoism, which is obvious, but even if you're not behaving in an egoistic way, in our mind, in our vital, in our body, everywhere where we exist, there is something of the ego. And so long as we function out of that, we want in everything we do an ego affirmation. Like anything we do, the ego wants to get something out of it. You're sitting here listening, you want to feel good, you want to understand more. I'm not saying everything that the ego does is wrong or bad, but the ego is something that always wants to grasp into itself, which always wants something out of everything. And there is a deeper self which has a different kind of wanting. The taste buds of the deeper self are quite different from the taste buds of the ego. So this whole talk is about how we can work in our way to change the taste buds of our being to want what our higher and deeper self wants rather than what the ego wants. Okay? So if you look at the first screen share, Mother's words, you must go deep, deep within and find the eternal essence of your being to know the creative reality in yourself. Are you on the Savitri eternal reality in yourself. And once you have found that, you will realize that it is the one single thing, the same in all others. And so where is your separate personality? Nothing's left any longer. Yes, these are recording and producing instruments. And there are always what might be called distortions. They may be distortions for the better, they may be for the worse. They may be fairly great changes and inner combinations are such that things are not reproduced exactly as they passed from one to another because the instrument is very complex. But it is one and the same thing. So, Mother saying that deep down you're an eternal essence, and that essence is same in everyone. But we perceive ourselves as different from others because of our thoughts. We feel the thoughts are us and the thoughts make us different from others. But Mother says that these thoughts, these recordings, the mind is a recording and producing instrument. So whatever you experience, even what you are not conscious of, gets recorded in your subconscious mind. So if you look at the way your thoughts work, there's one category of thoughts which you choose to think. And there's the other category which goes on by itself. You didn't invite them, but they are just there. Now, where did those thoughts come from? They are coming from your subconscious mind. Whatever's programmed into your subconscious mind through your experiences, when you're not consciously using thought, then your subconscious mind churns out those patterns. Am I clear? So it's just, we think thoughts are a reality on what we are feeling or what life is. But they are not a reality at all. They are just recordings from the subconscious mind playing out. So just, yes?
But for sure they are there in the subconscious mind means very randomly I get some thoughts. Means I haven't got it
out of choice. So they are coming from your subconscious.
So in my subconscious, for sure they are there, that's all
Well, see, there's conscious thought which you choose to think, and unconscious thought which is not coming from your choice. It's just coming.
Yeah, but sometimes these thoughts which are just coming from the subconscious, like Anahita said, sometimes we don't know also how they are coming from.
We don't know because it's exactly the name subconscious. You're not conscious of it. So that's what Mother is saying here. Yes, these are recording and reproducing instrument. Your mind records and reproduces. And there are always what might be called distortions. They may be distortions for the better, they may be for the worse. They may be fairly great changes. The inner combinations are such that things are not reproduced exactly as past from one to another. And it is one and the same thing which is moved by a conscious will, quite independent of all personal wills. So, just now before coming, I spoke to somebody who was having a major panic attack, and she just was asking her doctor, give me one injection, another injection. Till the doctor said, I can't endlessly give you injections. You get admitted to a hospital where they monitor you. So we worked with only two things on phone. One is I asked her, what are you anxious about? She told me something like, I have a blocked ear and it's giving me anxiety. So when I said, are you hearing yourself a blocked ear, which is nothing more than wax in your ear, and it's giving you a panic attack? Because your mind is maybe telling you all kinds of things, and maybe this is the last straw on the camel's back in any case. So what thoughts are giving you the anxiety attack are your imagination. At least do you rationally see that? And she said yes, and we just did a little bit of breathing and metta, and her sister said that she's much better, she's calmed down. it's so obvious that what's causing us anxiety is often imagination in our mind. But for us, that imagination is so real. And I won't even say it's only imagination, it's just programs from our subconscious mind coming and playing themselves out. And that's where you have to bring rationality to it. You have to see that the thought is not creating a true picture for you. It's just a song playing from the radio. You're sitting here perfectly happy. A song talks about earthquake and bad weather. Doesn't mean the weather here is bad, right? It's just the song playing from your subconscious mind. So one thing is to recognize that and stop getting our identity and individuality from that. There's nothing separate or independent. There is only one substance, one force, one consciousness, one will which moves in countless ways of being. And so it is so complicated that one is no longer aware of it. But if one steps back and follows the movement, no matter which line of movement, one can see very clearly that vibrations propagate themselves, one following another, and that in fact there is only one unity of substance, unity of consciousness, unity of will. And that is the only reality. Outwardly, there's a kind of illusion. The illusion of separation and the illusion of difference. Further, Mother's words, what would you say if a temple built according to the design of some great artist were to boast, admire my merits, am I not beautiful, well-built, solid and durable? Truly am worthy of all praise, just as if it were the author of its own perfections. We would find that very silly and ridiculous, and yet that is what we are doing constantly. We, like the temple, are ignorant of the great conscious power that has made us what we are. And because we do not perceive the labor of the sublime worker, we ascribe the merits of the work to ourselves. So also the demerits. I could be a temple which is boasting I'm so beautiful, or I could be a temple which is saying I'm no good, I'm unlovable, I'm inadequate. But either way it's a falsehood, because the temple doesn't build itself, right? The architect builds the temple. So for the temple to say I'm no good or I'm terrific, it's sheer stupidity, right? Further, Mother's words. I'm saying this because we said the topic of our discussion is changing our taste buds from living in a way to get ego affirmation to getting what our deepest selves wants. There's another taste bud of your deeper self, there's another taste bud of your ego. So we need to understand the mechanisms of the way the ego works. One mechanism is it's quick to praise itself and it's quick to criticize itself. Either way, it doesn't bring the divine into the equation. It doesn't say that if I'm good, I mean, philosophically I know, but the moment I do something well, the ego in me is quick to say, wow, I'm so good. Then later on, maybe conditioning will kick in and I'll offer it to think of Mother. If I do something badly, immediately the ego will slice down on me. Yeah?
An example to temple, and like even when you said when you feel love or love, doesn't happen if you feel love because normally he normally gives you that love. When you feel unloved, like they say they're not.
That's how the ego functions. Shalin, the ego is always very dependent on conditions. So, The taste buds of the ego are exactly this. I'll feel loved if the world gives me love. I'll feel unloved if the world doesn't give me love. That's true. That's the way we all
How do
function.
you feel now if everyone around you is telling you this, not giving that now?
So if you go by this temple analogy, if you are the temple who's really conscious of the fact, temple here is a metaphor, it's the state of your being, whatever is your state of being in the moment. So if you feel you are solely responsible for your state of being and what you attract, what you don't attract, you will feel unloved if people don't give you love. But if you go back, if you remind yourself that everything in my life is the architecture of the divine intellect, this moment, even if it's painful, it's part of the temple architecture. So then you won't blame yourself for it. You'll realize that there's a purpose to this moment also, it's a work in progress. And you'll just, Mother says, no, if you take everything as the grace of the divine, you will see that it is indeed grace. And Shannon, most people who actually feel loved, they are not people who are looking validation from outside, because validation from outside is going to be flaky all your life. For most people's life, today you'll get it, tomorrow you won't get it. But if I tune into the deeper being that I am, which is love, and I source my love from there, I won't need people. And when I release the need on people that you make me feel special, automatically I'll bring out the best in them. When I'm not chasing after love, it will follow me. Because I'm at that frequency where everything will align. But if I keep looking at it from outside, I won't get it. And
then what is the significance of another parent to love child? So we are saying that love doesn't matter.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Till a certain point it matters. Mother talks about individualization, where you have to make a concrete personality. Then you can go beyond it. So till you're individualized, it's nice to get circumstances which give you a good positive ego. Then you can let go of it. But even till you get individualized, these thoughts are useful to have, that I'm not unloved in this moment because I'm unworthy. It's just part of the temple architecture at this moment. It's what the mother has given to me. Let me be patient with it. Let me see where it's going. And whether I get love from outside or not, can I at least be kind to myself? Can I be kind to my mind state? This mind state has arisen. Usually I feel again it's come. I'm so stupid. Why am I like this? I can't be kind to others till I'm kind to myself first. So be kind to yourself, be with it. Remember Mother's words that if I take everything as the grace of the divine, I'll see that it is. All materialism and positivism in the world have been constructed just because people do not want the divine grace to come in at all. If they are cured, if they are cured, they want to say, it is I who cured myself. So you know there's this new age positive thinking, positive affirmation and materialism. So Mother's saying all this have been constructed because people do not want to give the one divine grace to come in at all. If they are cured, they want to say, it is I who cured myself. If they make a progress, they want to think, it is I who have progressed. If they organize something, they want to proclaim, it is I who am organizing. And many of those who try to do otherwise, if they look within themselves, they would see how seldom spontaneously, sincerely, not as when one says something because one knows it should be said, or as one thinks something because it is the fashion to think like that, but spontaneously, sincerely, with all their heart, they know that it is not they who have done the thing, but the divine force. When they have made a progress, when they have changed something in themselves, when they've learned something, then when is it that spontaneously, without an effort of will, without thinking, without needing to tell oneself one ought to think like this, spontaneously one knows that without the divine force, nothing would have been done. Look into yourself. It is a very interesting thing, very interesting. How many times a day do you think, and mother's telling her sadhaks, people who have grown up with her, how many times do you think, I have done this? I have been able to do that. I succeeded in this, or I failed in that. And when you have made a good effort, when you have obtained a result, you need a little moment for thought or more to tell yourself, if the divine force had not helped me, probably I would not have been able to do it. The spontaneous thing is, oh, I have succeeded or I have failed. Isn't that true? There is indeed a part of the mind which has been educated, which has learned, has reflected, understood, which is well disposed and truly feels that in reality it is like that. But this is only one part of the mind, and it is not always active sometimes. Do you see the truth of what mother is saying? That when we do anything spontaneously, there's a feeling of I've done it. So self-praise, I've done it well or I've done it badly. Mother says, train your mind so that the moment something is done, there's a memory that the divine did it through me. I didn't do it. So if I did it well, I turn in gratitude to her. You know, I read this in mother's words, but I was once talking to an ex-student of mine. Now, of course, she's moved on doing various things, but those days she was very connected to the path. And she was also very, very gifted, very good with dance, drama, very good looking, all that. And I know she would get a lot of attention and praise. And one day I played the devil's advocate and I asked her, don't you feel good about yourself when you get so much praise? So she said, Miss, I could, but I've trained myself to do one thing. Whenever I get praise, instead of feeling, oh, I'm so good, I make it a habit to thank God for it. And she said that gratitude is so much richer than the arrogance of feeling I'm a cut above the others. And I mean, she was barely 14 or 15. This is wisdom coming from inside her. And mother teaches this. But mother in her heart automatically taught her that. And I thought that's so much of a richer way to live. Because however good you are in the world, there'll always be somebody better than you. And if nothing else, look at Sri Aurobindo. I mean, we get puffed up with little things, little achievements. On Siddhi Day, when Krishna consciousness descended into him, everyone was talking about it. He was just sitting. When mother came and asked him, is it true, has Krishna consciousness descended? He just said, yes. Now let's see what happens, just like that in this stone. There was no excitement, no getting puffed up, wow, Krishna. I mean, look at what we are talking about. That's our role model. And here we get any little joy, peace, whatever. Wow, I'm so good, I'm so conscious, I'm better. What is our role model? If he's our role model, it will always humble us. Because wherever we reach, we will not be a dot compared to him. So it's always good to be grateful rather than arrogant. So this part which feels grateful is not always active. Sometimes it must be called up and asked, what is then the best attitude to have? What should I think? So very often we have to call upon the deepest within us and ask it, what is the best attitude to have? What should I think? I believe all who have taken up yoga, if they are sincere, if they reflect for a moment, tell themselves, I was not aware of it. But if I have succeeded, it was probably because the divine forces were there to help me. Otherwise, I would not be able to succeed. Those of us who fail and feel, oh my God, I'm a failure, the opposite. It's not here, but I was not aware of it. But if I have failed, it was probably because the divine forces wanted me to fail to pave the way for an eventual success. Either way, don't take the responsibility on yourself. Open and offer it to the divine. This is well understood, but there comes a moment when one knows that one would not have been able to lift a finger if these forces had not been there. That comes later, but to begin with, how many times, if one thinks, if one quite simply observes oneself, does one catch oneself saying, it is I? And then one congratulates oneself sometimes saying, after all, I can do something, I'm capable. Or one depreciates oneself saying, it is I. After all, I'm useless, I can't do anything well. Both are the ego. I am going further. How many people would be capable of doing anything at all if simply deprived of the pleasure of being able to tell themselves, I have done this. I have realized that. I have made a progress. How well I played this game. How many people would be able to this is beautiful, what Mother is saying is of great importance. She says if we take away the ego motivation of getting that ego kick of having done something, then we'll want to do nothing. That's what Mother is saying. That if we don't have that motivation of the fruit of the action or whatever else, we just feel like doing nothing. But that's where the taste buds of our being have to change. Mother says, the motivation can be, I have done this, I have realized that, I have made a progress, how well have I played this game with Mother? How many people would be able to sincerely do something if this pleasure was taken away? But instead to say that I'm doing it for the Mother, whatever the results are, I'm offering it to her. If the results are positive, instead of feeling I did it, I'm grateful to you. If the results are negative, never mind, Ma. Your hand is on my back, I've failed today. The same hand that brought me to failure today will take me to success tomorrow. I'm not going to be dejected. There is no more need to do anything, no longer any need to move one dreams. Under a tree, arms crossed, one leaves the divine to do everything for oneself, including the feeding if you need it. This is perhaps very well, but this shows that the instrument is not ready. She's talking about those who touch that transcendent peace and then lose any motivation to do anything. We've fallen into that sometimes, no? When we are with that peace, we don't want to do anything. So Mother is saying that this shows that the instrument is not ready. It is not really at the service of the one. It is at the service of the ego, because the ego wants that peace. So it doesn't want to do anything, otherwise it will lose the peace. Therefore, as long as one lives in the ego, this illusion is necessary to make you act. It is necessary to keep up action. until one is completely transformed, or in any case, till the true consciousness is established.
Anahita,
Yes?
when you say that the mother said that no, you don't want to do anything when the peace descends, so what can one do at that time?
No, when it descends, of course you're with it. But it shouldn't take you into a place, actually, to stabilize it in real life. You should try and feel the peace and slowly open your eyes. You should try and feel it and walk, make very small movements. The real truth is when you can live out of that peace. You know, in meditation, we often try to escape ourselves. But the real meditation is that which grounds you in light. When you can live out of that light and peace. Mother says how successful your meditation is of the parameter for it is how differently do you live life. For most of us, we feel like, actually all my ex-students only teach me so much. Today morning I was speaking to somebody who was sharing that she spends 1.5 hours meditating and she feels very good. But rest of her life is a chaos. She's running around, she's losing that peace, then it's not a very meaningful meditation. How much you change in the way you live your life is the parameter for how correctly you're meditating. And can that meditation continue into your living movements? And then when you do simple things with that peace, your whole doing changes. It's like, it's such a beautiful feeling of you're not doing anything and the doing is just happening.
I understand that effortless doing,
Yeah.
when this happens. But even if I want to continue with that, it just disappears.
No, so it's practice. This is training a muscle, no? Meditation is, peace is also a muscle. You train it with practice. But that's the whole point. Our ego wants to trace muscles which show physical muscles or muscles of our voice, our authority, whatever. But changing the taste buds of our being is to strengthen these other muscles. My yearning should be that I want to strengthen this muscle of peace or this muscle of self-giving and surrender. I have said this and I repeat it. Mother takes up her book. Whatever you do, whatever the process you use, and even if you have to happen to acquire it in great skill and power, you must leave the results in the hands of the divine. Always you may try, but it is for the divine to give you the fruit of your effort or not give it. There your personal power stops. If the result comes, it's the divine power, not yours, that brings it. So again, I'm thinking of one of my students, a boy who's struggling with his career immensely. And he tries very hard and something is just about to work and it doesn't. And this boy, if I'd known him maybe 6 or 7 years ago before he turned to the path, he would get despondent very quickly. But now I see one failure hitting him after the other, but he's happy and I'm just looking at him and saying how. Because he lives his life saying that my inner growth is more important than outer success. So, and mother then aids him so much. Just before the greatest failure was going to come his way, she took him to Pondi. And he didn't know about this failure, but in Pondi, he was in a perfectly high state and suddenly he felt a huge anxiety coming out of nowhere. Nothing had triggered it. It's obviously an anxiety from his subconscious mind and it played out and it left him. Then when he came back to Bombay, it had been worked out. So when the failure came and it should have made him anxious, it didn't make him anxious. And he says success will come, but I have to be in the right frame of mind for the success to come. So if I can keep my body healthy, my mind healthy, in a good mind space and keep doing my best, I'm good. Not that he doesn't have his highs and lows, but I'm amazed at his mind state when one thing hits him after the other, and to my eyes, that's the real success. If he had succeeded in the corporate and remained that jangled, easily despondent person, to my eyes, that wouldn't be success. But I'm seeing, wow, he's really flowering, and perhaps mother's giving him these failures to bring out the flowering. Difficult tasks come to earth to compel men to overcome their small personal egoism and turn exclusively to the divine for life, health and light. The ego disappears only when you're ready to abandon yourself completely to the Supreme Lord without any personal motive and without any expectation of profit. When you do it because you cannot do otherwise. So it's very difficult to even diminish the ego, forget making it disappear. But Mother says that the ego disappears only when you are ready to abandon yourself completely to the Supreme Lord without any personal motive. We are at a stage where we want God because we want Him to make us happy, give us peace, fulfill our wishes, which is good. It's good to start from there. But eventually you turn to the divine not because you want anything, but because you cannot help but turn to the divine, right? So we discussed this poem where the poet was questioning the mother, why do I love you? Is it because you're this? Is it because you're that? And the last line of the poem was, I love you because I simply don't know how not to. I don't know how not to love you. I don't love you because of this or that or that or that. So when you reach that point and you just offer everything you are and everything you do to the divine, that's walking the sunlit path, and that naturally diminishes the ego. Mother, when we make an effort, there's something in us which becomes very self-satisfied and boastful and contented with this effort. Now this is the sadhak talking even about a spiritual effort. When we make an effort, we are regular with our yoga practice or whatever. And there's something in us which becomes very self-satisfied and boastful and contented with this effort, and that spoils everything. Then how can we get rid of this? That's Mother answers, that's what looks on what it is doing. There is always someone who observes when one is doing something. Now sometimes he becomes proud. Obviously this takeaway takes away much strength from the effort. I think it is that, it is the habit of looking at oneself acting, looking at oneself living. It is necessary to observe oneself, but I think it is still more necessary to try to be absolutely sincere and spontaneous. Very spontaneous in what one does. Not always to go on observing oneself, looking at what one is doing, judging oneself severely. Do you see how closely and deeply Mother has examined human nature? It's as if she's speaking about us in intricate ways that we haven't observed ourselves. Whatever we do, we are always observing. How am I doing it? How is it coming across to others, or how is it coming across to me? And she says that constant self-regard and self-look takes away much from the effort. So she's saying, not always go on observing oneself, looking at what one is doing, judging oneself sometimes severely. In fact, it is almost as bad as patting oneself with satisfaction. The two are equally bad. Do you see that? To judge yourself severely or to pat yourself saying, I'm so good, both are equally bad. One should be so sincere in his aspiration that he doesn't even know he is aspiring, that he becomes the aspiration itself. You notice this even when you're meditating. You start with the aspiration, and as soon as something nice is felt, immediately you'll say, wow, I'm feeling this. Wow, I'm feeling that. The ego will come in. But Mother's saying you have to reach a point where you don't even know you're aspiring. You become one with the aspiration, or you become one with the peace. How do you do it? The answer is always awareness. Become aware of that part in you which says, wow, now I'm feeling so good. Or wow, I'm not feeling good, nothing is happening. Both are the ego. Just become conscious of it and offer it to the light. If the ego is saying, wow, I'm feeling something, convert it to gratitude. Thank you, Ma. I couldn't have felt this without you. I'm feeling you, it's your grace. If the ego is feeling dejected, never mind, Ma, your hand is on my back. You will come to me in your own time. I'm just going to wait without respondents. So Mother says this, that when you don't even know you're aspiring, you become the aspiration itself. 1 minute of this, Mother says, and you can prepare years of realization to become that aspiration. Not watch the process of aspiration and what you're getting. When one is no longer a self-regarding being, an ego looking at itself acting, when one becomes the action itself, above all, and the aspiration is truly the good, Sanjana. When there is no longer a person aspiring, when it is an aspiration which leaps up with a fully concentrated impulsion, then truly it goes very far, so beautiful. And all of us have experienced those moments when I'm not an Anahita, take your name, sitting here and aspiring, but I become the aspiration. I forget about myself. I forget about how I look, how I appear, not only to others, but even about myself. I get so consumed by the moment that I become that moment. That's when the aspiration has the complete fullness and the meditation has the complete fullness. So we'll skip the next 2 pages, go to the silence behind life. Sri Aurobindo's words. There is a silence behind life as well as within it. And it is only in this more secret, sustaining silence that we can hear clearly the voice of God. So if we ever have a burning question, we'll never get an answer to it by overthinking. In fact, overthinking will take us further away from it. If we just make our mind quiet, this silence will give us the answer. Notice that much celebrated line from Savitri. In the mind's silence, the transcendent acts, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word. The guidance is the unuttered word which comes to you when you make your mind quiet. In the noise of the world, we hear only altered and disturbed echoes of it. So beautiful, Sri Aurobindo saying even noise is an echo of silence. It's not an opposite, but it's an echo of silence, because the noise also comes from silence. In the noise of the world, we hear only altered and disturbed echoes of it. For the voice comes always. Who else speaks to us on our journey? So beautiful, every voice that speaks to us on the journey is the voice of God, which is silence. You know, we've discussed that there's nothing like God as much as silence. Even through the noise of life, noise of our overthinking, it's that silence which somehow speaks to us. There's that beautiful line in Savitri, even through the mists of mortal thought, infallible are thy mysterious steps. Who else speaks to us on the journey, on our journey? But the gods of the heart, the gods of the mind, the gods of desire, the gods of sense, take up the divine cry, intercept it and alter it for their purposes. Who are these gods of the heart, gods of the mind, gods of desire? They are forces of the ego. Ego in the vital, ego in the physical. So our depths are always speaking to us. But the vital or mental ego or the physical ego distorts that voice. You know, we've all done in physics that experiment of refraction, light passing through a slab and it gets bent, right? Ego is the medium that distorts it. Mother would pour all herself into us, but the moment she gives us even a little bit, how our ego jumps and how our ego starts feeling special, better, wants to show the world what it's received, etc., etc. So, Mother would open a world of power to us, but she can't till the ego is there. And that's what Sri Aurobindo says again and again, that for the supermind to descend, we cannot have the ego. So long as you have the ego, the supramental vibration cannot descend in its fullness in you. So, in one sentence, if we have to sum up Mother's work in us, it's to transform and transcend the ego. But not till you're individualized. Mother emphasizes individualization before you can transcend the ego. So, she says, this voice comes for the gods of the heart, the gods of the mind, the gods of desire, the gods of sense take up the divine cry, intercept it and alter it for their purposes. Krishna calls to us, but the first note, even the opening power of sweetness awaits a very brouhaha of these echoes. Krishna calls to us is what we receive sometimes in meditation. But even the first note will stir up the ego into so much excitement. So, Mother emphasizes that our aspiration should be steeped in peace, not in agitation and excitement that, wow, now I'll receive, now this will happen. Not like that. Because then we are expired. Then exactly this, the light has come, but it is being refracted by our ego, so it's not held in its purity. That's why Sri Aurobindo emphasizes that peace and silence should be the starting point of any meditation, because if that peace is not established in you, the moment ananda comes or light comes or joy comes, the ego will make a big drama out of it, which will spoil everything. Krishna calls to us, but the first note, even the opening power of sweetness, awakes a very brouhaha of these echoes. It is not the fault of these poor gods. Poor gods are the egoistic forces of the vital and mental. The accent of power is so desirable. The note of sweetness is so captivating that they must seize it. They is the gods of the vital mental. They would be dull and soulless. There would be no hope for their redemption if they did not at once leap at it and make it their own. See how beautiful and wide Sri Aurobindo is. He's saying even this movement of the ego to get excited by the descent is not wrong. It awakens the soul to something more. Ego is a helper up till some point of the journey. So he's saying even this is not bad. Because if it wasn't there, there would be no hope of this ego being transformed. If it didn't first of all respond to the light. It may be an egoistic response, but it's still a response. But in becoming their own, it ceases to be entirely his. How many who have the religious faith and the religious temperament are following the impulses of their heart, the cravings of their desire, the urgency of their senses, the dictates of their opinion when they fully imagine that God, their God, is leading them. And they do well. Again and again, Sri Aurobindo is pointing what we call a human mistake and then saying it's not a mistake. They do well. And they do well, for God is leading them. It is the way He has chosen for them. And since He has chosen it, it is the best and wisest and most fruitful way for them. Still it is their God, not one they have made in their own image. As I'm reading them, I'm just saying, what? It is a God they have made in their own image. But Sri Aurobindo is saying, not one that they have made in their own image as the atheist believes, but one who makes himself in the image that they prefer. Did you get the beauty of what he's trying to say? Did you get it? He's saying that people who follow religion and who say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, they too are following God, but not the God they have made in their own image. Looking at it, we'll say, this is not God, this is something you've constructed, you've made God like yourself. But Sri Aurobindo is saying it's not a God they've made in their own image, but the image that the God has erected in a way that's suitable for them. So beautiful, he's saying that every nuance of our relationship with God is chiseled by God Himself. It's not we who do it. We discussed, that beautiful song we learnt in our music class, Champaklal's composition. Sarveshwari Shwarmi Michagana Samasta Brahmandma Navkaithaya. Nothing happens without her will. Even the ability to think of her day and night happens only when she wills it. I can't do it on my own. And once she wills it, I just have to stay in her arms day and night, which is also her will, her wish. So I think I'm creating my relationship with God, but that is also my ego. God is chiseling His relationship with me at every point and making Himself available to me in a way that makes sense to me. I said, wow, what brilliance and truth this writing has. I'm reading it again. And they do well, for God is leading them. It is the way He has chosen for them, and since He has chosen it, it is the best and wisest and most fruitful way for them. Still it is their God, not one they have made in their own image as the atheist believes, but one who makes himself in the image that they prefer, the image that best suits with their nature or their development. In whatever way men come to me, in that way I love and cleave to them. It's in quotes, it's a saying from the Gita. Krishna said that. It is a saying of fathomless depth which contains the seed of the whole truth about God and religion. How generous God is, in whatever way men come to me, in that way I love and hold on to them. It is a saying of fathomless depth which contains the seed of the whole truth about God and religion. After all, it is only in this way that the conditioned, we are the conditioned, can meet the absolute, that which has a nature or dharma of its own, with that which is beyond all limit of nature or dharma. After the meeting of the soul with God, well, that is a different matter. The secrets of His nuptial chamber, marriage chamber, cannot have all been spoken. It continues, nevertheless, there is a higher way of meeting Him than that which leads us through the subjection of God. So, I mean, Sri Aurobindo is like a spiritual scientist. His whole thing is like an experiment. If you do this, this will happen. If you do this, that will happen. So he's saying that those who follow the dictates of their mental vital ego and worship God through it, it's fine because even that ego has been created by God. But there is a higher way of meeting Him, that which leads us through subjection, and that which leads us through subjection to the gods, by perfect love, by perfect joy, by perfect satisfaction, by perfected mind. One can hear what the voice truly says, if it is not the voice itself. Catch the kernel of the message with a sort of ecstatic perfection, even if afterwards the gods dilate on it and by attempting to amplify it and complete, loaded with false corollaries, or prevent some greater fullness of truth from arriving to us. Therefore, this way also, though it is high, cannot be the highest. So he's saying what Mother said earlier. Mother said, no, that if anything good happens to us spiritually or emotionally, immediately the ego comes and saying, wow, such a nice thing is happening to it. That's the God. Metaphorically, that's the God of the vital or the mental seizing on it. So he's saying, acknowledge it. That God has also been created by the God. The ego has also been created by God. No, Ramakrishna says the ego is the divine mother rushing out to embrace existence. So be kind with your ego, but still don't be controlled by your ego. Be the master of your ego rather than the slave of your ego. Ego is not a bad thing. Ego is a creation of the divine mother to help us to progress. But whenever the ego is controlling you, taking you away from the divine truth, just remember and offer. The greatest humbler for the ego, see, ego is really like a child. Most of us have very child egos. If we are strict with it, it will throw a tantrum. But who does a child listen to the most? Its mother, if it's fond of the mother, right? If you offer the ego the mother, the ego will be tamed. If you offer the ego, yeah, you're feeling puffed up and it's a kick, but try feeling grateful to the mother instead. The ego will say, yes, I feel much happier opening to her and feeling grateful to her than feeling arrogant. And again, if it's a negative ego which is going on a side, I'm no good, I'm a failure, again bring mother into the equation. Remind it that the mother's hand is on your back. She has said that even for one moment, if you felt true love for me, I put a golden chain around your heart and you become my responsibility for lifetimes. Mother is responsible for my failure or success. Let me bring her into the equation. So Sri Aurobindo is saying the same thing here in his language. So this is a little poem, The Being's Tastebuds. Swirls of light all over abound, hiding now, then again found. Alchemizing light that fine-tunes and changes the jarring dissonance of the cosmic ranges. Two opposite tastes offered to the being. What are the two opposite tastes? When there's light, there are two tastes. One is the ego to say, wow, I'm so great. The other is self-giving and gratitude. Two opposing tastes offered to the being. Two different lights beckon the seeing. How I'm looking at life. Am I going to look at the ego? Am I going to still keep observing myself? Or am I going to look at mother? Calling to the one womb that birthed me since time began, the creatrix molding hand that all overran. I ask that hand to now transform my being's taste buds away from their norm. To savor an ambrosia is heavenly food, the tongue cannot taste. My ego always wants to taste material things, but I'm praying to the Mother, change my being's taste buds. To savor an ambrosia, the tongue cannot taste. To smell fragrances in your heart encased. To prefer the hues that paint your infinity, the colors that paint your infinity, to the quicksilver colors in life's changing booty. Booty is a story. So I'm always attached to the quicksilver colors of life stories, but change my taste buds to prefer the hues that paint your infinity, to the quicksilver colors in life-changing ditty. Nothing left to the abyss's bottomless sink, every pore thirsting your infinity to drink. The abyss is the ego. It's a bottomless sink, no? The more I try to quench it, it's like drinking salt water. The thirstier I get. The ego's desire is a bottomless sink. So it's saying change my taste buds so that nothing is left to the abyss's bottomless sink. Every pore thirsting your infinity to drink. Mother's words. Ego, your hour is gone. For centuries and centuries, humanity has waited for this time. It is come, but it is difficult. I don't simply tell you we are here upon earth to rest and enjoy ourselves. Now is not the time for that. We are here to prepare the way for the new creation. You are here at this moment, that is to say upon earth, because you chose it at one time. You do not remember it anymore, but I know it. That is why you are here, Mother says. Well, you must rise to the height of the task. You must strive. You must conquer all weaknesses and limitations. Above all, you must tell your ego, your hour is gone. We want a race that has no ego, that has in place of the ego the divine consciousness. It is that which we want, the divine consciousness which will allow the race to develop itself and the supramental being to take birth. There's a beautiful picture of the mother on the next page, and mother's words below it. I ask only one thing. Do not listen to the ego. So beautiful. How much pain we create for ourselves just by listening to the ego. How much pain we create for people around us because we listen to our ego. Just read this again and again. Mother telling you from the page, I ask only one thing. Do not listen to the ego. And we come to the last screen share, words from Savitri. O force compelled. Now these are a voice from the beyond which is speaking. Okay, here mother said, I ask only one thing, do not listen to the ego. In your mind, think of that same voice continuing in the same vein. O force compelled, forces of the mental, vital, physical, the gods we spoke of, which seize on divine truth and distort it, they compel us to behave in ways which we don't want to. So the voice is telling us, O force compelled, fate driven, earth born race. Oh, petty adventurers in an infinite world, we are so petty in the little things we want, and prisoners of a dwarf humanity. How long will you tread the circling tracks of your mind? To live this ego-imprisoned living existence is to go round and round the same circles in our mind. You know, if you look at the way you think, the same patterns of arrogance or despair, inadequacy, comparison, it's the same. Really, our stories don't change much. So the voice is asking, how long will you tread the circling tracks of mind around your little self and petty things? But not for a changeless littleness were you meant. Not for a vain repetition were you built. The voice is reminding us, you were not made for this. Rise to the occasion. But not for a changeless littleness were you meant, not for a vain repetition were you built. Out of the immortal substance you were made. Remember in Gita, Krishna tells Arjun, you are my Purnasya Purna, you are the wholeness of my wholeness. And of course he's told Arjun that my words to you are my words to humanity down the line. Out of the immortal substance you were made, your acts can be swift, revealing steps. So this is a beautiful line to remember whenever I feel inadequate. Out of the immortal substance you were made. I feel adequate or inadequate not because of what life does to me or not, but I remember that I'm made from God's substance. Whether my current parents cause me pride or shame, my real parents are parents of life. That's my real kinship, that's my bloodline. And that's what should give me my self-confidence also. Out of the immortal substance you were made, your actions can be swift, revealing steps. Your life, a changeful mold for growing gods, a seer, a strong creator is within. The immaculate grandeur, immaculate is pure, grandeur is greatness, broods upon your days. It's a self-remembrance. Whenever you're feeling low about yourself, this passage can be so empowering. A seer, a strong creator is within. The immaculate grandeur broods upon your days. Almighty powers are shut in nature's cells. A greater destiny waits you in your front. This transient earthly being, if he wills, can fit his acts to a transcendent scheme. This transient is changing. Earthly being is each of us. If each of us will, we can fit our acts to a transcendent scheme. This transient earthly being, if he wills, can fit his acts to a transcendent scheme. He who now stares at the world with ignorant eyes, each of us, we are staring at the world with ignorant eyes, hardly from the inconscious night arouse, that look at images and not at truth, can fill those orbs. Orbs are circles which are our eyes. Can fill those orbs, those eyes, with an immortal sight. So beautiful, Sri Aurobindo has said, no? Look at life with the soul's vision and become the master of circumstances, not their slave. So long as we are looking at life and our circumstances with our mind's vision, we are slave to circumstances. As Shalin said, we are waiting for the outside to make us happy or unhappy. But if we look at life with the soul's vision, then we become the master of circumstances. And then you'll say, but how do I do that? The only vision I have is the vision I have. Well, two ways. One is try to make your mind quiet, try to connect. The other way is tune into the faith that is already inside you. Even in moments of deepest despair, when you don't have faith, Sri Aurobindo says we already have that faith inside us, in our heart as Kalyan Shraddha. You just have to tune into it. You can't think of it. You just have to somehow tune into it. And there's that beautiful line of the Gita, Yoya Shraddha Sa Eva Sa. Whatever is your faith will become your truth. So constantly remind yourself, the mother's with me. If I open to her, she will make me flower, because she's like the sun, determined to make every flower in the garden flower, right? The sun has no favorites among flowers. My mind tells me she'll only help that one because that one's good enough. I'm not good enough to be helped sometimes. But she's like the sun. Her whole intention is to make every flower in the garden bloom in its own season. So encourage the faith. Those can fill those orbs with an immortal sight. Yet shall the Godhead grow within your hearts. You shall wake into the Spirit's air and feel the breaking walls of mortal mind. This is Sri Aurobindo's promise to humanity, because he always says, I'm not a philosopher, I'm a seer. I write what I see. Whatever he's written in Savitri is what he's seen as the future of humanity. You shall wake into the Spirit's air and feel the breaking walls of mortal mind, and hear the message which left life's heart dumb, and look through nature with sun-gazing lids. Right now we are looking at nature with darkness of ignorance in our eyes. But now when we have that vision, we won't look at nature, we look through nature with sun-gazing lids. Sun-gazing lids are lids which are able to see God in everything. So if I'm looking with my mind's eye, it's one ego looking at another ego, and there's unhappiness. But if I look with sun-gazing lids, I will see, suppose Joyan is rude to me, I will not think of it as Joyan being rude to me. I will see, oh, that's that ego acting in Joyan. I will see through the ego to the God essence in Joyan. Ego will not be a personal thing to me anymore. It's like a consciousness virus which has afflicted our whole species, right? So if Joyan has a cough because she has a virus, I won't be upset with her, no? I know that her normal speech is not so full of coughing. So similarly, if Joyan comes to me in an egoistic way, I'll say, oh, the virus of ego has afflicted her. That's not the real Joyan. Joyan is the God essence. Joyan is the mother. So I won't personalize it. Similarly, when my ego takes over, I'll remember it's just a virus that has afflicted my whole species. Just now it's taken me over. I won't judge myself harshly for it, but I'll step back from the ego to the divine truth I am. I'm not the ego. So, that look at images and not at truth can fill those orbs with an immortal sight. Yet shall the Godhead grow within our hearts. You shall awaken to the Spirit's air and feel the breaking walls of mortal mind, and hear the message which left life's heart dumb, and look through nature with sun-gazing lids to recognize the ego and not confuse it with the person. That is to look through nature with sun-gazing lids and blow your conch shells at the eternal's gate, authors of earth's high change. To you it is given to cross the dangerous spaces of the soul. Everything we are going through is a dangerous space of the soul, right? Because we are going through so many battles, so many upheavals inside and outside to reach the deity within us. To you it is given to cross the dangerous spaces of the soul and touch the mighty mother stark awake, not asleep to her presence, but fully awake to her presence, and meet the omnipotent in this house of flesh, and make of life the million-bodied one. What a beautiful charge and purpose. Remember I told you about that student of mine who, despite many outer failures, remains whole and good because he has the good fortune of or grace to be very clear about his goal. I don't know, but maybe this whole passage in some different words is his goal, that this is my parameter of success. This is the mandate given to me by life. Outer success and failure will happen, it will come and go. But if this is happening, I'm good. If this is not happening and I have all the success in the world, I'm not good. So, these last lines, to you it is given to cross the dangerous spaces of the soul and touch the mighty mother stark awake and meet the omnipotent in this house of flesh and make of life the million-bodied one. The earth you tread is a border screened from heaven. The life you lead conceals the light you are. This line can be a mantra. What a beautiful line. The life you lead conceals the light you are. You are that light, but the life you are leading is concealing the light that you are. If there are any questions, we can take them up. Otherwise, we sit quietly and assimilate. Any questions? Anyone? Okay, so let's sit quietly. The topic of our talk today was changing the taste buds of the being. So obviously our being has two kinds of taste buds: desires, wantings, life thrusts. One set of taste buds are the taste buds of our ego, which is constantly looking for affirmations from the world outside, which wants to look special in our eyes or in the eyes of the world. And so all our energies are towards that end. The other set of taste buds are the taste buds of our deepest. The deepest in us wants something quite different from what the surface ego wants. And somewhere our yoga starts gaining momentum when our taste buds change, when our goal changes. I quoted here the story of a student of mine who's facing monumental failures in his career. And if I'd known him 6 years ago, every little thing upset him. He would have been down in the dumps. But the journey has been so beautiful for him that despite one failure after the other, more or less he stays in good spirit. And when I was discussing this with him once, he said he's very clear that the inner goal is more important to him than the outer goal. do his reading, his meditation, his listening to talks, whatever he does to keep himself in a good, receptive, open space, work on keeping his body healthy, then he's happy. He'll keep trying. He tries many different ways. He doesn't just get discouraged by the failure, but it's backed up with this other goal. So I can very clearly see that his being's taste buds have to a large extent changed. And what a gift of grace that is. Now, how do we change the taste buds of our being? We are so conditioned to live an egoistic existence that there's a constant self-regard, a constant self-look, looking at myself. How am I doing? How am I singing? How am I speaking? How are others looking at me, or how am I looking to myself? So we have to catch that self-regard and constantly remind ourselves that this self-regard is as inane as Mother says, a temple looking at itself and saying, I'm so beautiful and glorious. The temple's beauty is in the hands of its architect. Whatever comes to me in the moment is the architecture of invisible divine hands. So, in my self-observation, if I do something good, instead of being puffed up, let me have almost the discipline of feeling gratitude instead of the puffed up feeling. I couldn't have done it without the mother. In fact, I know that I can't even lift a finger without her. Thank you, Mother, for doing this way for me. When I experiment with this, I'll find a much richer happiness in gratitude rather than arrogance. I don't want to be harsh with my ego. I want to turn it to the light. So also, if in observing myself I'm self-critical, let me turn that criticism also to the mother. The mother is the architect of the temple of consciousness that I am in this moment. If she has brought me to it, she'll take me through it. Isn't it Sri Aurobindo's assurance in Savitri? His failure is not failure whom God leads, and that all my splendid failures will sum up, S-U-M, sum up to victory. Again a gem from Savitri. So either way, either start offering the fruits of my effort to the mother with gratitude if it's a positive fruit, with faith if it's not a fruit pleasing to my ego. And I constantly remember Mother's command. She says, I ask for only one thing. Don't listen to the ego. And then this beautiful passage from Savitri, some lines in it, where that voice is addressing humanity, telling us, O force-compelled, fate-driven, earth-born race, O petty adventurers in an infinite world, and prisoners of a dwarf humanity, how long will you tread the circling tracks of mind around your little self and petty things, but not for a changeless littleness were you meant, not for a vain repetition were you built, Out of the immortal substance you were made. To you it is given to cross the dangerous spaces of the soul and touch the mighty Mother stark awake and meet the omnipotent in this house of flesh and make of life the million-bodied one. The earth you tread is a border screen from heaven. The life you lead conceals the life you are. This line will be your mantra in dark moments. The life I lead conceals the light I am. Sanjana, Namaste of the heart. Let's end with 3 words.